welcome to today's video. It's another before and after makeover. Yay! I hope you're excited. Just in case you're new to my channel, I'm Dr. Echo Rivera, and I'm trying to end death by PowerPoint in every industry across the world. So if you're tired of boring, confusing, overwhelming presentations, then hit that subscribe button so you don't miss my next video. Okay, today's video is possible thanks to Alexandra Guerson, an associate professor teaching STREAM at the University of Toronto. Thank you so much for submitting your slides today. She submitted her lecture slides for a makeover to put on my channel and said that this slide over here is one of her trouble slides, and that's going to be the focus of today's video makeover. By the way, I'm hosting my own Patreon type thing. All of my YouTube videos are part of a course portal that I put together, and you can subscribe to that for a super low monthly fee, and you can watch all my YouTube videos without YouTube ads, and there's bonus content. So if you'd rather watch this video on there, then the link is in the description. Okay, so let's get started with the makeover. What I've done today is I'm only going to do a makeover of this one slide, but I'm going to do 2 levels or 2 phases of a makeover. We're going to start with a realistic, practical, super easy and fast makeover. This is kind of like a step 1 makeover, your first step towards improving your slides. But then I'm going to show you a custom visual slide that I put together. So let's first talk through some things that are good about this slide and some things that we can improve about the original slide. So the first 3 good things I want to mention are we have pretty good visual hierarchy here, and the alignments are really good. Plus, the body text size is larger than average and very close to the minimum font size that I recommend. And most important of all, there is no design template. Yes, it's just a clean, plain slide. And I was thrilled to see that, for real, actually thrilled. Now, of course, we can improve some things. First, what caught my attention is we have not only a first level bullet point, not only a second level indent for our bullet point, but a third level indent. These should be avoided, indents, nearly 100% of the time. Whenever you start indenting your bullet points, that's a red flag to just use more slides. Also, even though there isn't a design template, we still have those bullet point circles, and we don't need those, so we can get rid of those. And we can bump up the font size just a little bit more so it's even more accessible. Those are the most urgent design things that I want to fix. You might be wondering why I didn't mention needing a visual as something that is urgent. And again, I will be doing that. I will be doing a visual makeover in this video, but it wasn't super urgent to me because look at this slide deck. It's already highly visual overall. So a few text-only slides are going to be just fine. Plus, there is actually something more urgent that we do need to fix, and it's not just about the slide design. We have a small issue here with what I refer to as the presentation package. This is something I talk about in the first course of my professional development program, where a presentation is not just the slides. It's both what the audience sees on your slides, and it's what you say at the same time. And then we expand on that in the second course and start talking about how those 2 things need to have a good balance. One reason is that if they don't have a good balance, you are going to struggle with designing the slide. You are making your life harder if you don't have that balance. And as I was reviewing the script to do this makeover, I saw this as a perfect opportunity to talk about what I mean by that. To show you what I mean, I started to highlight and match things up. So our first key point in this slide about economic globalization says acceleration of economic transactions. So I highlighted it in yellow on the slide, and then over in the script, I highlighted those same words in that same color because it's a match. It is both in the slide and in the script. And then For the rest of that script, I highlighted everything else about this one point in red. Red highlight means I'm talking without a visual complement on the slide. I'm talking without giving the audience a visual cue on the slide. Just with this first bullet point, look at how much red we have compared to yellow. Moving on to the second bullet point, all it says is economic depression. So I highlighted that one in green and then everything else in red. The next bullet point says Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, United States Agreements, 1994. And it took a second to find this in the script because there's actually this section here where it is just script without any visual cue on the slide. But then towards the end, I did find it. So I highlighted that first one in blue and then just sort of color coded all the sub bullet points just so I can easily match everything to the slide. So that was my system for this. And I don't actually do this like when I'm working on a presentation, when I'm working on my scripts. This was just so I can communicate to you visually what I'm talking about when I'm saying things like good balance between what people see versus what you say. Because look, this is all of it together. And my hope is that you instantly see what I mean about balance and that we don't have a good balance here. Look at how much red we have compared to the color highlights. And we can streamline this into just two colors. So red is spoken without a visual cue on the slide, and blue is spoken with a visual cue, meaning it is on the slide. And then we can even compare it this way. There is so much more red than blue, and that's a problem. There's no balance here. And the whole slide itself is unbalanced. It's like unbalanced overall, but it's also unbalanced within the slide. That first point here, barely any visual cue, lots of talking without a visual cue. Second point, same problem. But suddenly, for this third point here, this is like where all the visual cues are. So this part did have a good balance. So it's unbalanced and inconsistent within the same slide. So it's a lot of talking without visual cues, without that balance, and there's no animations on this slide. So all of that together is a recipe for a bored or lost audience, or both. And I talk about why that is in my professional development class. But let's go ahead and just fix it and do the makeover. So we're first going to do a very practical design that the busiest person, the busiest professor can do. All we're going to do is use a separate slide for each of these main points. And we're going to address some of those small design tweaks that I mentioned early on. So this is what it's going to look like. Here is slide 1. It's set to an appear animation. So I click, 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 click to walk through each point as I'm talking about it. And then here's our second slide. Same thing. Click, 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 click. And then third slide, same thing. We're just clicking through, walking our students through this material. Don't just leave yet. If you're like, wait, that's boring, and you're about to close out of the video, hang in there to see where I'm going with this, okay? What we mostly fixed just now was the balance between our slides and the script. This is not flashy, it maybe not be thrilling, and that's okay. That's not what we need to do all the time. This is about helping your audience follow along and understand what you're saying in real time. That would have been hard before, but we've fixed it. Take a look at the after. Notice the entire thing has a combination of blue and red, and just visually we can see the difference in that balance. Also notice I did not make the entire thing, the entire after, all blue. Right? That would just be reading from the slide. So it's a mixed balance. There's some red, then there's some blue, and then some red again, and then some blue. It's ping-ponging back and forth, but at a steady, predictable pace. So no, it's not the most exciting slide design ever, but look at how fast and easy it can be to make your slides better. That's what I want you to see. A lot of people watch my YouTube videos where I'm teaching something and I go like level 10. I've got like animations and morph and like all sorts of stuff, custom visuals. And sometimes people think that then that's what they have to do for every single slide. But no, like slides like this can be fine. They are at least a step in the right direction, and I do teach you how to do this. This is a really good starting point. And most importantly, we have made it easier to follow along with without getting lost. So please don't dismiss the power of making slides more accessible. Yes, the original is all text and so is this version, but this version is significantly more accessible because we've balanced out what we say and what we show on our slides. And these changes actually make the lecture more friendly to working memory. So there's your why. That's why this is helpful. That's why we can do this. It's going to help prevent cognitive overload. And that is ultimately what I teach in my professional development program. The strategies in that entire program, the most effective changes you can make are those that are designed to prevent cognitive overload. Because you know what? People can push through boredom, but they cannot push through cognitive overload. Fix that first, and then you can always use visuals to make the design more visually engaging and less boring. Besides, if you're worried about forgetting what you're going to say, these slides are a perfect transition to help you with that. And just as a reminder, almost all of the slides in this presentation are actually highly visual, so having a few of these slides is totally fine. We wouldn't want the entire presentation to look like this, but it's okay to give yourself a break and just get some of the slides done and move on. All right, with that said, let's now make it more visual. What I'm going to do is turn these slides into a timeline. So here is the more visually engaging makeover, and this time I'm actually going to read through the script so you can see how all these changes work together and what I mean by this balanced presentation. So, ready? Let's go through the lecture. When most people speak of globalization today, they refer to the immense acceleration of economic transactions that took place in the second half of the 20th century and has continued into the 21st century. And the creation of a global market in which brands like Coca-Cola or McDonald's are immediately recognized all over the world. Many have come to see this process as natural, almost inevitable, and unstoppable. But in fact, we designed this system. And it is not a system that is inevitable or even necessarily one that will always be here. We are seeing some major challenges to globalization in the last few years as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the United States moving away from free trade agreements. In 1929, there was a Great Depression. That started in the United States, but affected the whole world because of connections in the economies of those different parts of the world. The Great Depression led to extreme difficulties around the world, with a lot of people losing their jobs and being unable to find new jobs. Companies and banks went bankrupt and closed down. In many ways, the Great Depression contributed to creating the conditions that led to the beginning of the Second World War in both Asia and Europe. Because of that, the period in between the First and Second World War was one in which economies became smaller and countries tried to be less dependent from one another. The capitalist winners of World War II were determined to not repeat the Great Depression, but they also wanted to promote closer connections. So there was a conference, the Bretton Woods Conference in New Hampshire in 1944. At this conference, they forged a set of agreements and institutions that laid the foundation for post-war globalization. These included the creation of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. This Bretton Woods system negotiated the rules of commercial and financial dealings among the major capitalist countries, while promoting relatively free trade, stable currency values linked to the US dollar, and high levels of capital investment. And there we go, end scene. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you maybe learned something new or had some of the history that you learned before refreshed. But either way, what do you think? Quick recap, this was our first round of makeovers, getting us to a good enough point to move on. But then we were able to take these last 2 slides and turned them into something much more visual, much more customized. And again, showing you that solid pace and that balance between what I was saying and showing a visual cue for that on the slide. And now these new custom visuals can be used for other material, like that timeline can be customized to include different details, different dates. Or if you need a timeline for another lecture, you can copy paste and use some of those same elements to share a timeline for a totally different topic. But even if it's just within that lecture, if, for example, there was a need to talk more about that conference or some of the agreements or institutions from that conference, this slide itself could be used as a visual to refer back and sort of say something like, hey, remember when we talked about this conference? Let's now talk a little bit more about this part or the impact or whatever. So by doing this now, it helps us have those assets that we can use later on in the same lecture or even a different lecture or presentation. Okay, one more point to make here. Take an extra look at these after slides. There's something you don't see here, right? There's something I did not use for these makeovers. Design templates, my number one enemy. This is why I was so happy to see that she wasn't using a template to begin with. Because if you want to create more accessible, visually engaging slides, then your first step is to stop using these templates. It doesn't matter if it's PowerPoint. It doesn't matter if it's Canva. Canva's templates are no better than PowerPoint's. These makeovers were only possible because I did not use a design template like that or any template. Here, look, even with our plain simple makeover, it is so much easier to read the text, isn't it? So that's accessibility. That's making it easier for people to see the content on the slide. Both of these are like the same zoom level. I'm not using any tricks here. So yeah, it maybe is a little less colorful. We don't have those random green triangles or whatever random design is put on a design template. But ultimately, those random triangles or whatever are just distracting and they take up so much space that the text is too small to read. I could only make these slides more accessible because there was no design template. But I think the difference is more obvious here. Look how awful those same custom visual slides look. And the only difference is that I kept the template. That's it. I didn't change the design to make the template look worse. All I did was keep the template. That's what they do. They take away your option to create more visual custom slides. And take note of these slides in particular. Like, how did I do these? How did I make these? Can you reverse engineer? If you completed the second course in my professional development program, you probably can because it's just blank slides, icon shapes, and text boxes. And I teach you how to do that in the master course because that is how you create custom slides. And it's actually pretty easy once you know some of those basics. Compare this to what most people hope will be the solution. More templates. Canva has these, PowerPoint has them. In PowerPoint, they're called Smart Art, or they have design ideas, and they are a joke. They look so silly. I mean, do you see how these aren't even helping you take a step in the right direction? You can't upgrade these to make them look better, and you have to fight just for some basic design tweaks. They are a waste of your time. Whereas with these, I could always come in here to make them better. I could take that one text-only slide, turn that into 2 slides, add a stock photo to each, easy upgrades, again, that I teach in my program. I could build that timeline out more. Or like I said before, I could use it again. These slides now look nice enough and are clear enough for handouts or to use as references when I refer back to the topic, whereas those Smart Art designs are not. And again, that text is so small, you probably won't be able to read them if you're using like a standard like handout option when you're printing. So, okay. Rant over. Hopefully you enjoyed this makeover and it helped open your eyes to some possibilities for slide design. And most important, I want you to see that these slides are totally possible for you to make. You can do this. You can totally do these. And they do not take forever, I promise. Like I've mentioned, all I've done here is use the strategies taught in courses 1 and 2 of my presentation masterclass. And by the way, that first course does teach you more than just designing slides that are all text. A big part of it is using photos and using photos with text, how to find photos, how to format them, and how to upgrade text-only slides with pictures really easily. And if you're interested in seeing more examples of that, then be sure to check out this other video about spring cleaning your slides. Like that video pretty much shows you a lot of the types of slide designs and slide layouts that you will learn in that first course of my program. And by the way, my program is actually 4 modules, 4 courses, not just 2. The masterclass does include data visualization strategies and how to organize and structure your presentation so the content itself is interesting, no matter what the content is. And the slide designs I showed you today are super easy, and by the time you're halfway through the masterclass program, you'll be able to make slides like that easy peasy. So if you want those skills for yourself, I share all my secrets in that program. Links are, of course, in the description box. Plus, I always have some type of free kickstart intro training available on my website. So go ahead and take a look at that. Or if you don't want to take a course, I do have other options that may work for you. Consulting, design services, book me as a speaker. So if you liked what you saw today, definitely subscribe and hit the bell, but also explore my website at echarivera.com to see what options work best for you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video and you have a great day. Bye now.